What's up, guys? Welcome to October 27th as we dive into Mark chapter 13, verses 1 through 23. Jesus speaks about the future. As Jesus was leaving the temple that day, one of his disciples said, "Teacher, look at these magnificent buildings. Look at the impressive stones in the walls." Jesus replied, "Yes, look at these great buildings, but they will be completely demolished. Not one stone will be left on top of another." Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives across the valley from the temple. Peter, James, John, and Andrew came to him privately and asked him, "Tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will show us that these things are about to be fulfilled?" Jesus replied, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in many parts of the world, as well as famines, but this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. When these things begin to happen, watch out. You will be handed over to the local councils, and being in the synagogues, you will stand trial before governors and kings because you are my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell them about me, for the good news must first be preached to all nations. But when you are arrested and stand trial, don't worry in advance about what to say. Just say what God tells you at the time, for it is not you who will be speaking, but the Holy Spirit. A brother will betray his brother to death, a father will betray his own child, and children will rebel against their children and cause them to be killed. But anyone who hates you, and anyone will hate you because you are my followers, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. The day is coming when you will see the sacrilegious object that causes desecration standing where he should not stand. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills. A person out on the dock of a roof must not go down into the house to pack. A person out in the field must not return even for a coat. How terrible it will be for a pregnant woman and for nursing mothers in those days. And pray that your flight will not be in winter, for there will be greater anguish in those days than at any time since God created the world, and it will never be so great again. In fact, unless the Lord shorten that time of calamity, not a single one will survive. But for the sake of his children, for his chosen ones, he has shortened those days. Then if anyone tells you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," don't believe it, for false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform signs and wonders so as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen ones. Watch out, I have warned you about this ahead of time. Matthew chapter 24. Jesus speaks about the future. As Jesus was leaving the temple grounds, his disciples pointed out to him the various temple buildings, but he responded, "Do you see all these buildings? I tell you the truth, they will be completely demolished. Not one stone will be left on top of another." Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him privately and said, Tell us what will happen. What sign will signal your return and the end of the world?" Jesus told them, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic yet. These things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world, but all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You will be hated over all the world because you are my followers, and many will turn away from me and betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. Sin will be rampant will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many deceive me, and the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved, and the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world, so all nations will hear it, and then the end will come. The day is coming when you will see what Daniel the prophet spoke about, this sacrilegious object that causes desecration standing in the holy place. Those in Judea must flee to the hills. A person out on the dock of a roof must not go down into the house to pack. A person out in the fields must not return even to get a coat. How terrible it will be for a pregnant woman and for nursing mothers in those days. And pray that your flight will not be in winter or on the Sabbath, for there will be greater anguish than any time since the world began, and it will never be so great again. In fact, unless the time of calamity is shortened, not a single person will survive, and it will be shortened for the sake of God's chosen people. Then if anyone tells you, look, here is a Messiah, or there he is, don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform great signs and wonders, so as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen people. See, I have warned you about this ahead of time. Luke chapter 21 verses 5 to 24. Jesus speaks about the future. Some of his disciples began talking about the majestic stonework of the temple and the memorial decorations of the walls. But Jesus said, the time is coming when all these things will be completely demolished. Not one will be left on top of another. Teacher, they asked, when will this happen? What sign will show us that these things are about to take place? He replied, don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and saying the time has come, but don't believe them. And when you hear of wars and insurrections, don't panic. Yes, these things must take place first, but the end won't follow immediately. Then he added, nation will go to war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquake, and there will be famine and plagues in many lands. There will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs from heaven. But before all this occurs, there will be a time of great persecution. You will be dragged into synagogues and prisons. You will stand trial before kings and governors because you are my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell them about me. So don't worry in advance about how to answer the charges ahead of you, for I will give you the right words and such wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to reply or refute you. Even those closest to you, your parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, will betray you. They will even kill some of you, and anyone will hate you because you are my followers. But not a hair of your head will perish. By standing firm, you will win your souls. And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you will know that the time of its destruction has arrived. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills. Those in Jerusalem must get out, and those out in the country shall not return to the city. For those will be the days of God's vengeance, and the prophetic words of the scriptures will be fulfilled. How terrible it will be for the pregnant women and for nursing mothers in those days. For there will be a disaster in the land and great anger against this people. They will be killed by the sword or sent away as captives to all the nations of the world. And in Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles comes to an end. Mark chapter 13 verses 24 to 31. At that time after the anguish of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will give no light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Then everyone will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with great power and glory, and he will send out his angels to gather his chosen ones from all over the world, from the furthest ends of the earth and heaven. Now learn a lesson from the fig tree. When its branches bud and its leaves begin to sprout, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things taking place, you know that his return is very near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from the scene before all these things will take place. Heaven and earth will appear, but my words will never disappear. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will never disappear. Matthew chapter 24, verses 26 to 35. So if anyone tells you, look, the Messiah is out in the desert, don't bother to go and look. Or look, he is hiding here. Don't believe it for as the lightning flashes in the east and shines to the west, so it will be when the Son of Man comes. Just as the gathering of vultures surround or shows there is a carcass nearby, so these things indicate that the end is near. Immediately after the anguish of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will give no light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then at last the sign that the Son of Man is coming will appear in the heavens, and there will be great mourning among all the peoples of the earth. And they will see the Son of Man will come in on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and he will send out his angels with mighty blast of a trumpet, and they will gather his chosen ones from all over the world, from the farthest ends of the earth and heaven. Now learn a lesson from a fig tree. When its branches bud and its leaves begin to sprout, you know the summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, you know his return is very near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from this scene until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will never disappear. Luke chapter 21, verses 25 to 33. And there will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And here on earth the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring seas and strange tides. People will be terrified at what they see coming upon the earth, for the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Then everyone will see the Son of Man coming on a cloud with power and great glory. So when all these things begin to happen, stand and look up, for your salvation is near. Then he gave them this illustration. Notice the fig tree or any other tree. When the leaves come out, you know without being told that summer is near. In the same way, you will see all these things taking place. You know that the kingdom of God is near. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from the scene until all these things have taken place. Earth and heaven will disappear, but my words will never disappear. And so that's the end of today's reading. As we know, Jesus really emphasized about the signs of when he will be coming back, and how there will be a lot of false prophets that claims that he's coming back whenever they think he's coming back. But I think they have valid reasons. Like, there are rumors about wars and like nations against nations, and how Christianity, how Christians around the world are being persecuted. Maybe not in this country specifically, but maybe like in China, in the Middle East, countries like those, Christians are heavily being persecuted. Like, so all that to say is that I don't think we should dismiss those signs, because Jesus says that those are like false in a sense. Well, don't be alarmed by it, but knowing that those things must happen, that Christians must be persecuted, that there will be wars of famine, nations against nation, kingdoms against kingdom, family members turning against each other. All these things will happen. It has to happen. But realize that those things will happen, but the end does not immediately follow, whatever that may mean to some people. And so I think we should always live a lifestyle of, like Jesus said, he uses the illustration of the branches, and how, like, if the leaves are starting to grow, that means without being told that the summer is coming. In the same way, when we see these signs, we know that Jesus' return is ever more so closer. And so always living with the heart of awareness to know that, oh, Jesus is coming back soon. We not know what time, when he will come back. But living a lifestyle of humbleness, of humility, it's just saying that, like, Jesus, I may not know when you're coming back. You may not come back in my time, but I know that you are coming back. We are living in the end times when these signs are showing of kingdoms versus kingdoms, nations against nations, families against family members, natural disasters. All these things are happening, but I'm gonna keep living a lifestyle that says that you could be coming back any time, so that I may not be caught off guard, if that makes sense. I think a lot of Christians, and that's the thing, like, people don't like to talk about the end. When they talk about the end, I don't know, it just feels like the same repetition. So I'm not trying to so I don't want to keep repeating the same things as what other people have been sharing. But it just to centralize the message of what Jesus is trying to say is to stay alert, knowing that the end times are coming. And the last thing we need is to be caught off guard, being caught sleeping, and having to get thrown out of the banquet because we were not ready and prepared for the banquet to happen. And so yeah, I hope what I shared is all helpful. Keep living with a sense of peace and hope, that especially these days, when everything just feels so demonic, when everything just feels so discouraging, still live with a sense of hope, knowing that Jesus will be the answer, that Jesus at the end of the day has control of all things. He even says the earth and the heavens will pass, but that of his words will never pass. And so that's what part of the faith is about, is staying faithful to God, faithful to Jesus' words, even if everything around you wants you to panic. Stay calm, stay true to God, knowing that if we have Christ in our hearts, in our lives, having a relationship with him, then we don't have to live a life of worrisome. The only people who should be worried are non-believers, and that of the lukewarm Christians. And so may you go and walk with God today.